First things first, how many bags did you fill with stuff that you trawled from the conference floor? How many fidget spinners did you come away with this time out?
To be honest, I gave up on that kind of activity a long time ago. So I am not.
I even bought a fidget spinner with me, just to prove.
Actual VMware employees in Barcelona last year who got notified that their jobs had been cut while they were there. So I talked to one of them. I co-presented with one of them last year, and he actually said he didn't know if his return travel would be reimbursed because he basically got fired while in Barcelona.
What?
I think until now, the last year has been just a bunch of kind of uncertainties in every direction and no one knows where we're going.
So they've essentially damaged their reputation by doing this sort of stuff to all the differences. People, can you trust them? And again, I suppose at that point, can you trust Broadcom? Hello everyone and welcome to this podcast. Today we are delighted to be joined by Rutger Blom, our Swedish, Dutch, one of those colleague at Proact who's a VMware expert. And Christian and Rutger have just come back from, well, essentially the two largest VMware conferences available. Explore Vegas, I'm sure you did, and Explore Barcelona, was it the other one?
Yeah.
So good time, gentlemen. How was it?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I only went to Barcelona. Rutger is the guy doing kind of multinational travel here. So.
Exactly. Dutch as I am, I'm traveling the whole world and conquering the. Yeah.
So are they back to back? Do you sort of like go to one and then come back and go to the other more or less straight away?
Not really. I think there's a couple of months in between.
Oh, good.
So it's the one in the US is in August, and then the one in Barcelona is in November. So there's some months in between, and that's sometimes pretty cool because there will be announcements in Barcelona that were not in US. So it's sometimes it makes sense to actually visit both, depending on where you live and etc. But nice conferences.
I'm going to say certainly. I don't know how it's changed somewhat. I used to go to a lot of the VMware ones. I've been to Vegas a couple of times with EMC and VMware, and the scope or the scale between the two is normally fairly distinct. The US conferences tend to be a fair bit larger. Is that still the case?
To be honest, not really. I think this year I was a bit surprised when I got there. It was not the Explore event that I was kind of used to seeing. Immediately the first thing I noticed was there were a lot less attendees and a lot less sponsors, and it's just like it felt a bit kind of empty. It was like okay, there's a huge space, and there were more people in the casino than at Explore almost. The whole event is actually besides the casino area, so of course it's Vegas. But yeah, it was a bit. It felt a little bit different this time around.
Which
Vegas?
Which casino is it held in? Because they're normally held in a casino.
This year it was the Venetian.
Yes, I did that one.
Yeah,
because that is
nice
massive.
location.
The place is enormous.
Huge, really cool place. Very very nice location, and the conference itself was top notch. I would say everything, logistics and everything was as usually the case with the VMware World or VMware Explorer is called nowadays. It's been great, but a lot less attendees, a lot less sponsors. So it's almost like something happened. I'm not sure. The last year.
What, like some sort of massive medical issue over a long period of time? That sort of
So do you know how many attended in Las Vegas this year, approximately?
I've heard. I'm not sure if VMware goes out with this officially. But I've heard rumors around like 6,000 attendees in the US.
Oh, okay. I thought it was more because Barcelona this year was kind of the same thing. I think this was my 8th time for VMworld or Explore in Barcelona.
I thought they barred you last time you went, or did you go in a sort of?
Yeah, I have multiple passports. It's fine.
No, nice. Okay.
But unless Rutger, who probably actually has.
This have one.
But yeah, I think there were around 5,000 in Barcelona this year, which is pretty decent, I guess. But I think the record for Barcelona is upwards to over 10,000.
Yeah.
From some of the ones attended before. So absolutely, Barcelona was kind of scaled down as well. They also scaled down the area of the conference center that they used to kind of the fear of where the conference is held. It's a huge conference center, right? And the distances between exit A and B are quite large. So it's happened a couple of times before where you basically had to spend your day walking between the different halls and everything to get around the place. But this year was a lot more compact because basically there were less people than it used to be. Right?
At the end of the day, this is the thing with people don't realize with conferences is the fact that you tend to be there with a rucksack on, carrying your fairly large laptop and maybe some water and your charger and your phone and your phone's charger. And by the time you finish the day, your shoulders are shot from carrying the laptop around apart from anything else.
Yeah,
there's a lot of weight to carry.
One of the things I've been asked about before, I've done a few kind of community videos on it and stuff like that. How do you prepare for Explore? What should you think about if you're new, whatever? The main takeaway of that has always been wear comfortable shoes.
Yeah.
That's the number one tip. You're going to walk a lot. So skip your dress shoes, get some trainers, and you're going to be walking. Wear comfortable shoes. That's the most important.
Don't bother
thing.
with a jacket. Don't bother with a suit. Don't put a suit jacket on. It just makes life very difficult.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, but so that's conference life. But at the end of the day, so what? And obviously, VMware have been around for years, and there's been a lot of change over those years. So what excited you? Okay, starting off with Vegas, Rutger. What excited you about sort of what you saw in Vegas? Was there anything new and interesting?
Well, to be honest, not much. It's a little bit like VMware is still kind of in a shock. I mean, a lot of things happened last year with the Broadcom acquisition, and it's kind of like the business is trying to figure out where they're heading themselves. So in Vegas, at least, I felt there was still not really a clear kind of picture for where they were heading. There were some, they were of course touching upon the big initiatives like VMware Cloud Foundation, VMware Cloud Foundation 9 and private AI, but we've been hearing that before. So it was like, I didn't really catch any, this is our roadmap moving forward and this is how we're going to do it. It was still very much a
holding pattern sort of situation.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. I thought it was more so in Vegas than in Barcelona. It felt, in Barcelona, things felt a little bit more like we know a little bit more about what we're going to do. It's a bit more like the dust has settled and we can move on and focus on our products again. But in Vegas, it was very much like I said, a strange atmosphere with much fewer people than there usually are. I think there normally are like 20,000 people, and now there were like 6,000. So that's a huge difference. They still had the same size of the conference, so it felt a little bit weird. I don't think maybe Broadcom anticipated that this would be happening. Maybe so. It was just a bit of a strange atmosphere. But when it comes to the announcements, no, not much. A lot of VMware Cloud Foundation, what's going to come down the road, but so not a little bit underwhelming, I would say.
It feels like VMware inside of the Broadcom kind of company and construct is still kind of trying to figure out what they're going to do and trying to find their footing in a way, right? It's a new home. It's a new way of doing things. They've reorganized all the existing VMware business units into different ones, which down the line might be a really good idea, especially when you're talking about Cloud Foundation 9. It looks like the reorganization they've done across the product lines might actually help develop that product into a product instead of a set of loosely coupled different products from different business units with different KPIs. So it's a transition period, right? It's VMware is finding its footing, figuring out who they are and who they want to be in this new construct, and the conferences naturally kind of reflect that in a way, right?
It's like everybody there who works for VMware has got a different boss than they had this time last year, to all intents and purposes.
Exactly.
because they were all working for different little sub companies and different. And even if your department hasn't really changed, the people who your department report to have, and therefore the direction for that department may well have changed.
But that was interesting last year, though, in Barcelona, because that was just around the time where the final acquisition would complete. It's been going on for a year and a half, but it was supposed to go through during Explore last year in Barcelona. But it didn't. It got postponed a week or two. But what actually happened was that there were actual VMware employees in Barcelona last year who got notified that their jobs had been cut while they were there. So I talked to one of them. I co-presented with one of them last year, and he actually said he didn't know if his return travel would be reimbursed because he basically got fired while in Barcelona.
What?
On their conference. Yeah. So last year was interesting as well.
He is there representing the company. Surely that shouldn't be an issue at any point, should it?
No, it's the US. I mean, they do things differently with regards to employees and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I'm not sure, it's not a secret. I was at VMware during the time that this was all happening. So I was kind of seeing the things from the inside. And exactly like Christian, like you mentioned, I think for many people, it was a very difficult time because I don't think there was a big or a lot of enthusiasm about Broadcom coming in and taking over the business internally. There was a lot of resistance around that, but yeah, it's business, so that's what happens. But a very turbulent time, and especially November, around the time things got really strange with the Explore conference, and people not knowing if they would have a job the next day. So it was really, really strange also to see this happening from the other side. So it's it's a weird period. Yeah,
and these people have families.
That's kind of been the story since last year in November, right? So going back to VMware is trying to figure out who they are now, right? Yeah. And I got the impression during Barcelona this year that they're actually starting to figure out where they want to go. Yes. They're starting to figure out what they want to be. They're starting to figure out how they can integrate all the different things into what you might call a new product line, but with the existing name of Cloud Foundation, right? Yeah. So things are moving in a direction that I'm actually looking forward to see what happens with it. I would have hoped that we could have arrived there without having a full-on year of turbulence and discussions around licensing and pricing. I have a theory that if Broadcom for a year ago had told everyone, we're going to stop doing perpetual licenses, we're going to start doing subscriptions, but we're going to do that when we announce and release Cloud Foundation 9. Until then, everything is as is, but be warned, changes are coming, but they're coming when the next product is announced or launched. And we would have, November 2025, been at pretty much exactly the same place as we are right now, but we would have had a year where we didn't have to argue about licensing being perpetual or subscriptions or sockets or core based and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And we would have been in the same exact spot with the products. So hopefully this, the way they're doing things now might be a bit more, let's say, let's hope we can trust them again in a way and see that and trust the process and trust that they're going in the right direction. I think until now, the last year has been just a bunch of kind of uncertainties in every direction and no one knows where we're going. And that doesn't help anyone.
So they've essentially damaged their reputation by doing this sort of stuff to all these people. Can you trust them? And again, I suppose at that point, can you trust Broadcom on that basis? It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I agree, Christian. It's like the confidence was back a little bit in Barcelona. The confidence that was lacking in Vegas was there again in Barcelona. Like the employees were like, okay, we have some plan here. We're gonna push this. You might like it or you might not like it, but they at least had something. This is how we're going to do it moving forward. And I think that's exactly what we saw in Barcelona. Better that people knew what they were doing. Yeah.
So a conference though is essentially, the conference is like a living, breathing thing. It's it's 6,000 in this case, or 5,000 geeks. 5,000 geeks in one room is a very powerful force at the end of the day, for good or for ill, depending on their mood. So to a certain extent, it's almost like controlling a mass like that must be very difficult. But if you've got the individual people who are representing the companies there not motivated, that impacts all of those people. Everybody who goes around walking around the conference halls talking to these businesses, if they're getting negative feedback back, then that impacts them as well. So really, the messaging at a conference is vitally important to how much people enjoy and get out of the conference. So you think they improved really in Barcelona?
Yeah, I think so.
And that might also be one of the reasons why the attendee numbers are lowered, right? Because last year, no one knew anything. There was a lot of uncertainty, no clarity of anything, just that something was coming, but we didn't know what. And people might have left both Las Vegas and Barcelona and thought, well, what's the point of doing this, right? And then they didn't attend this year because of what happened last year. And I thought Barcelona this year, exploring Barcelona, was pretty upbeat, pretty good. It was a good mood. I talked to a lot of people I know. As I said, I've been doing this for a bunch of years. My first Explore or VMworld was in Copenhagen in 2010, I think. So it's changed a lot since then as well, both in scale and everything. And now it's kind of scaling back towards that number again. But yeah, I thought it all overall was a positive kind of experience and a vibe at the conference because I think there's some clarity now of where we're going. And that's a good thing. But yeah, it remains to be seen that if they can execute on it, that's a different thing. So
absolutely. It's funny, I met the same person. Some of the folks that were in Vegas were also in Barcelona from VMware. So I kind of could measure their mood. I felt, like I said, in the US, they were kind of like shocked and still didn't know their destiny. In Barcelona, the same person was kind of like having much more confidence and having a good story around what he was doing and the direction the business was going. So yeah, I could feel it on an individual level even that something has become more clear for the folks working there. Really good, and that helps. I mean, in a conference like that, like you say, Tony, it's like the whole atmosphere improves massively if you have the people that are organizing it are actually motivated and happy and believe in the reason why they're there. So I thought it was a good conference as well in Barcelona, better than Vegas.
Nice.
But we were still there that there weren't any really major announcements made. I mean, there were no new. They had a VeloRain kind of SD-WAN for distributed AI networks thing, which, well, okay, fair enough. It's a product.
Maybe slightly niche. Is that what we're thinking?
Slightly. Yeah, right. But that was kind of the only thing that was really announced. Usually at these conferences, either in Barcelona or in Vegas, they announce new versions of products. They might pre-announce it. Often they have done pre-announcement in Las Vegas, and when you get to Barcelona, the actual product is available. And in the meantime, people have started playing with created demos and made talks about the new features. And they were kind of always ready when the new product was released. Yeah. Now there's a bunch of talk of where we're going, but there aren't any real kind of released new products that are available to everyone right now. So that part is still missing. That part there weren't any major ones this year in Barcelona either. So
is that? I mean, VMware is a difficult situation though, isn't it? Because essentially VMware created. Well, no, I don't think it's unfair to say that they created the sort of modern version of virtualization. Obviously, it happened before with mainframes and various bits and bobs. But
x86 virtualization, right?
x86 virtualization they invented, and I would argue, and I'm going to the Apple principle of doing things here at this point. I would argue, and the Microsoft one, I suppose, as well, that they perfected this about 6 years ago. And really, from that point forward, there's not actually been an awful lot of change. Certainly not from a hypervisor perspective.
No.
If I was to go and look now, I used to be a VMware engineer many years ago, but I would wager that I could pick up vCenter today and be completely comfortable with where everything is, because I don't think it's changed that much at all in that period of time. I might be wrong, but I may be blowing my own trumpet. But the point is, what else is there that they can do to make this better? That networking was one, and they came along with NSX, but they charged a large amount of money for that, and that's essentially becoming more of a thing. But even NSX hasn't taken off to the same degree as virtualization has, network virtualization from an NSX perspective. So what is there they can do next? Really, what are your thoughts on this, Rutger?
That's a good question. Like you say, they have tried in many ways. I think from between 2010 and 2020, they have been acquiring several businesses. Tried to. NSX was also came from an acquisition. For example, there have been others. NSX, I think, was maybe the last real innovation. Maybe together with vSAN, those were kind of products that really they've earned a place in the market. After that, I think most of the things they've been trying to achieve has been kind of been a mixed result, I would say. I mean, they've been trying to come into the modern application world with different things around Kubernetes, with Tanzu, and you all know this. And it hasn't really got any traction. Of course, there are customers running it, and it does still improve. It's still being developed and everything, but it's still like, where are we heading, and what are they really trying to do with it? So I haven't seen much innovation that they've been trying, to get, beyond the server virtualization thing that they're obviously very good at.
Oh, amazing!
But it's been hard, and they've also been missing some big items like when public cloud came around, they didn't really have any answer. When containerization came around with Kubernetes, they didn't really have an answer. They just sat there, kind of passively riding the server virtualization wave. I think it was maybe in hindsight, they could have been a bit more. They should have been the ones driving Kubernetes, making it a big platform. That would have been maybe a next natural evolvement of their product portfolio. But it's been a bumpy ride for them, I think. And but that being said, I mean, the business has been going very well with server virtualization still being a big thing, and it's often. People think that everybody moved to public cloud and containers, but it's still often running on VMware virtualization technology. So it's
Yeah, no, I agree. Certainly, my experience is that even though everyone goes, "Oh yeah, we're going to the cloud," still 80% of most people's work data is still short of Office 365. 80% of their actual running systems are running inside a VMware-based environment. There are a few Hyper-Vs, there are a few KVMs, but they must have 90% of the market, I would wager. But this is the Apple thing, in the fact that we have an iPhone. The iPhone hasn't really changed that much from an interface perspective over that period of time. There's been little evolutions each time. So is it just the fact that we've hit the peak? Is that they got it right? It's done right now. So now all they're doing is just making money off what they achieved.
Yeah, I think that's what Broadcom actually sees in front of them, despite all the noise around private cloud. I mean, they're essentially still going to deliver the same outcome to customers, a virtualized on-premise data center. And it doesn't matter what the product is called on top of it. It will all be mainly about vSphere and server virtualization. That's what I think. Just Broadcom sees that what you're saying, the market share is that huge. Customers have been investing heavily in these kind of platforms, so it's going to be difficult to move out of it. And to be honest, it's also the best technology around. I don't think there's any competitor really that is better. I mean,
no,
there are alternatives, but it's
I mean, we talked about it in one of the previous podcasts. But the point is, VMware isn't. The VMware are the best, but it's one of those situations where they are probably unbeatable at what they do. You can't create. Hyper-V gave up to all of those purposes. They haven't really changed Hyper-V very much in the last heaven knows how many years. It does what it does well enough that it's a decent competitor, but Microsoft aren't investing millions and millions of pounds improving the quality of Hyper-V. What do you think, Christian?
This is where I kind of want to I want to kind of tell or explain that I think actually Broadcom is trying to do something here that makes sense. And I haven't defended Broadcom much the last year.
I'm going to say,
but I'll have
do we want to note this
now.
down? To be honest, I think maybe I'll take notes.
Exactly. Because I mentioned it earlier, right? And I saw Rutger shake, or not shake his head, but nod in agreement as well when I said it. The product that is Cloud Foundation right now is basically vSphere virtualization, it's vSAN storage virtualization, and it's NSX for network virtualization, right? And then you have various add-ons for operations and logs and automation and stuff like that. But the thing is, inside of VMware, all of those things were kind of different business units that had their own KPIs, they had their own goals. And the release of an NSX version didn't necessarily correlate with the release of a vSphere version.
Yeah, true.
So, and when you try and build a product that contains all of those products into Cloud Foundation and sell that as a bundle, you get into a situation where if you bought the entire thing, you're limited to upgrading to when all of the components are on an equal level, right? Are compatible with each other. So they're basically a loosely coupled set of different products under one umbrella, which is called Cloud Foundation. In Cloud Foundation 9, Broadcom is trying, they reorganized everything, right? So basically the business unit that owns all of these products now is the Cloud Foundation business unit. So they have kind of one mission, and that's drive all of these products as one, right? So Cloud Foundation 9, which is one of the things that has been pre-announced, it isn't available yet. It will be available sometime next year. But their goal with that is turning all of these individual software packages into features of Cloud Foundation instead, right? So this also makes sense with the licensing bundles, because NSX is only available as a inside of the Cloud Foundation construct license bundle. So that's now a feature of Cloud Foundation. It's not a separate product. And if they manage to actually get this train rolling and get all of these things in sync, their story of doing an actual private cloud with one product line, with the features you enable or not, as one product instead of several products, it actually makes some sense.
So you got server virtualization, storage virtualization, networking virtualization as a single product.
Yes, and with a predefined and designed way of deploying it.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think about
on bare metal.
The lack of announcements is also, you can explain that by, Broadcom right now has a focus on fixing what is not working, making things easier. They're not focusing on releasing new things in vSphere or major releases. They are just focusing right now on bug fixes, making things work, making things easier to consume, and all of that will be some way in preparation for the vCloud Foundation 9, which is going to be, it's going to be a unified stack more or less with these features. So
I'm thinking probably when the first version of 9 comes, it'll still be a different set of products, but better integrated. But the roadmap of actually doing that as a single private cloud product with a feature set instead of disparate products set under joined under a common umbrella or name makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, agrees.
The other thing with that is the last X amount of years, I don't know how many, all of the explorers, both in Barcelona and in Las Vegas or San Francisco, US and Europe, has been focused on multi-cloud. Everything they've talked about has been multi-cloud. We're gonna be the manager of clouds. We're gonna talk to AWS. We're gonna talk to Azure. We're gonna bring everything together, and then you manage it from VMware console. That's been their kind of overarching strategy for everything.
I've heard that a lot
Something
over
that
the years.
VMware didn't really execute on, right?
No.
They
I don't think anybody
couldn't
did.
make that work.
No.
And in hindsight, again, it's probably impossible to make that work, because how can VMware sit and prepare for everything that Microsoft does in Azure.
Yeah,
There's no way they can do that, right? And do the same for Google Cloud and AWS at the same time. That isn't possible. You can't do that. No. So what Broadcom has done is basically the entire term of multi-cloud has been removed from everything. They've also removed all of the VMware Cloud services that were available as a service from VMware. That has been discontinued as well. And they're solely focused on private cloud on-prem.
Which makes sense.
You can extend your network.
It's what they're good at.
You can extend your network into Azure via NSX, sure. But they are not trying to be the manager of all the clouds anymore. Yeah. So their focus is Cloud Foundation on-prem as a single product, and that's what they're going to do.
Interesting.
And that, in my head, makes some sense. That's a good idea, which is also why I thought if they had just announced that a year ago, instead of making a mess out of forcing everyone onto new licenses without actually telling them why, I think if they did that a year ago, I think the story of the last year would have been completely different.
Interesting.
So it makes sense.
Right. Okay. There's a couple more things we haven't covered from a conference perspective. We've gone slightly off tangent, but it's interesting, so that's good. So the first things first, how many bags did you fill with stuff that you trawled from the conference floor? Seriously, I mean, how many fidget spinners did you come away with this time out?
To be honest, I gave up on that kind of activity a long time ago. So I'm not.
Come on, that's
I'm not running around anymore.
To conferences.
Yeah, I know.
Look, I even bought a fidget spinner with me just to prove that the. I don't know how many years that came in, but there you go.
In Vegas, I checked out the backpack and the T-shirt, and then in Barcelona it was the same set. I just felt like this is going to be a waste of my space. I'm not going to check that out even. So no, it's been very minimalistic this year for me. Yeah.
As I mentioned, I've been doing this for quite a few. I've done this quite a few times, right? So I don't bring that much junk with me home anymore either. But on the other hand, my problem is I usually bring my wife to Barcelona so she gets a week vacation in Barcelona while I'm at the conference, right? So she gets a week there, and this year was interesting weather-wise. I could get back to that, but we're from Norway, right? I mean, right now there's -7 degrees outside. A week in November in 20-ish degrees in Barcelona is good for everyone. So she gets a week's vacation. But I'm at the conference. So I don't bring a lot of stuff from the conference area home, but we still have 3 suitcases going home. So the other side of that is my wife gets a week of shopping in Barcelona.
Shopping happened.
Doing something else. So we bring back a lot of stuff, but not that much stuff from the conference itself.
Okay, does the Veeam party still happen? I mean, there used to be sort of a thing of legends. Not really anymore, though,
No, I didn't see it. No.
It's all of those kind of vendor parties has been scaled down pretty dramatically. The biggest event I was on this year, outside of the conference itself, was our own customer dinner in Barcelona.
Yeah.
So we were 50 people in a pretty well, let's say, a pretty well rated kind of steak restaurant.
I think we can advertise. Awesome. I mean, come on, we've been talking about all sorts of stuff so far today. So if you can remember the name, by all means, do. But
yeah, it's called Sagardis.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was really good. Rutger was there as well. So
yeah, it was amazing, really nice. So it was a highlight for sure. I had a dinner with the Swedish delegation the day before, but I shouldn't probably say this, but the Norwegian one was a little bit better, to be honest. But good times anyway.
That was good. But getting back to the weather thing, I mean, I'm from Bergen, Norway. I mean, one of the rainiest cities in the world, right?
Wow, really? Is it? Didn't know that.
Yeah. It's us in Seattle. I mean, we're kind of twin cities in different ways, but yeah, it rains a lot. here.
Has its own weather. Seattle, I hear, has its own weather system. So it's a bit like that.
So Bergen on the west coast of Norway is located in between 7 mountains.
Oh, truth. Oh, wow.
Right.
So if the wind's hitting one mountain, you get rained on. If the wind hits another mountain, you get rained on. If the wind, I get the general idea.
Basically, all the clouds just get stuck between the mountains until they're light enough to go over them, right? So the downpour hits us.
Nice.
But this year at Explore in Barcelona on the Monday, I was attending a partner technical leadership summit with some Broadcom execs on the Monday. And while we were sitting there, all of a sudden, I think there was about 50 or 60 people in the room. There was this national alert on all of the phones in the room. We were in a room without windows. We didn't know anything what was going on. And I initially thought it was a fire alarm at the conference center because, I mean, the noise of 50, 60 cell phones or mobile phones in a small room is pretty deafening on maximum volume, right? So there was a national weather alert, basically.
I mean, I thought Godzilla was attacking, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So it turns out that in the course of 3 hours in Barcelona that day, there was, I think, about 130 millimeters of rain.
Whoa.
Crazy.
So wow, so that's 13 centimeters of rain.
Yes. I saw some videos from the airport, and there were kind of 10 to 15 centimeters of water inside the terminal building.
Whoa.
So when we left that room and went outside, that was out of that room, but still inside of the conference center in the second floor. You have these outside spaces where you can go out and get some sunlight and some fresh air and stuff. Basically, there was so much water out there that it went over and into the building itself in the second floor. And let's just say that the floors at the actual floors in the second story of the Fira gets pretty slippery when wet.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That was interesting.
They don't
kind of like ice skating when going out from there.
They don't build for, but at the end of the day, it's such a warm country. They don't build with the anticipation that it may rain, or at least if it does rain, they build expecting it to dry out extremely quickly as well.
Yeah,
it was almost like they don't worry about that. It's fine,
A bunch of shops in Barcelona that was closed as well because they are below ground level. You walk down a stair to get into them.
Yes, seen them.
They were kind of closed until Tuesday because they had to dry out the thing. So
exactly.
It was that was pretty intense.
Yeah, but it was.
It was, yeah, definitely.
Wow. I suppose to finish off, what would you say then? Obviously, this has diminished a little bit. But it may then come back up again. So what would you say to anybody who is thinking of going to a VMware conference maybe next year, Rutger?
That's a good question. What would you say? Well, still bring your shoes, your comfortable shoes with you. Still going to be a lot of
possibly Wellingtons at this point. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a boat. No, it's. I still think very much the sessions themselves were, despite what we talked about with the attendees, the sessions themselves were very good, focused, good content. So I think still Explore is the conference to be when you are working in some way with this ecosystem. I would say go for it.
And that's not just because Christian did one. It's
not. No.
Not just, okay,
absolutely not. No.
Okay, no, and I agree. I from my experience going to them in the past, it's a knowledge sink. You can just take whatever knowledge you need because they got decent technical people there, and they got people who know what they're talking about. And no matter how technical you are, there are people there more technical than you.
Oh yeah.
So I've always found it a really good source of knowledge. Christian, what about you?
A couple of things. I on my end, my biggest takeaways from all of the Explorers or VMworlds that I've been at has basically been the networking part of it. I mean, meeting up with people I know online that I see once a year, getting to chat with people that I never see, and kind of the interaction with basically the community, right? That's kind of the sessions are good, but you can, in most cases, always watch those later on because they're recorded.
Yeah, but do you though? Do you ever watch them later on?
Well,
That's
I have a long to-do list, to be honest. But yeah, and that's also something. They didn't record the sessions in Barcelona this year, sadly. So they're only available from the Las Vegas event. But that kind of community part on my end was equally valuable this year that it has been before, right?
Yeah.
So on my end, that's my kind of go and interact with people, talk to people, make connections.
Yeah.
You never know when you're going to use them, or you can ask someone for help later on or whatever. Use it as a networking event because it is. It's really good at that.
Yeah.
We have these their own community booths, community sessions, community meetup spaces, right? That are not marketing driven and stuff like that. So that's a really good thing. The other one, especially preparing for 2025, is basically you'll have to go to Las Vegas.
Yep.
Really? They're cancelling Barcelona?
It hasn't been officially announced, but yes.
Okay, good. Right, okay, good. That's not good. Yeah, no, Europe represents a massive customer from the VMware's perspective. And don't get me wrong, these things make money. It's not cheap going to a conference. So they make money. So why would you not want to do it?
I don't know. But be prepared to go to Las Vegas in August next year if you want to attend Explore. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to do it, to be honest. They kind of, well, I don't know if I want to visit Trumplandia, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, right.
Great, guys. Okay. Sorry, go on. Go on.
No, I was thinking about it's a shame, but you see many, vendors doing this, moving away their conferences from Europe and doing just the US edition. It's not good for us living here, being here, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I know going to a conference in the US is much more difficult. It's like you're spending at least 11 hours on an aircraft most of the time, and that doesn't include the amount of time getting to the airport, standing in the airport, leaving the airport, getting to the conference center. It's a very, very long day, and then you get 3 days, during most of which you're jet lagged, before you then jump back on a plane and do exactly the same thing in the opposite direction. So it messes up a week and a half. So yes, it's not easy, but these things come in waves. In my experience, they will, and they have shut down the VMware conferences and the EMC conferences in Europe, and then 3 years later they've opened them back up again because the fact that they realised that they made a mistake doing it. So hopefully that is the case in this case as well. Right. Okay. Great. Thank you very much for that, guys. That's been really interesting chats. Fidget spinners at the ready, etc., etc. So. But thanks for joining in, and thanks Rutger for joining us, and thanks as always, Christian.